Today, let's think about some of the ways that time travel and religion intersect. One of them is simply about the nature of time itself, as it would have to be for time travel to be possible. For it to be possible to not simply put oneself in suspended animation and wake up later, which is a kind of time travel, but not what most people mean when they think about something like a time machine, to actually be able to travel back and forth between future and past, time has to exist as a block. The future has to exist already. The past has to continue to exist for that travel to be possible. If that's true, then that has implications for things like free will. And in fact, in order to claim that God is not simply all-knowing about the future as future and the past as past, but about all of time simultaneously from a vantage point outside of time, people have had to make the same kind of claim about the nature of time. And it has the same implications in both instances. Essentially, freedom disappears. Unless there can be multiple timelines, unless it's possible for time to veer off in a new direction and create a new timeline, then really time exists already, future exists already, past continues to exist, unalterable. And what that means is that history is rather like a film strip. And whether one adopts a secular or religious viewpoint of how that came to be, from some eternal perspective, it all exists simultaneously. And within that, you and I would have as much freedom as the characters in a film strip. We might believe moment to moment that we are making decisions, but in fact, the entire film reel, the entire recording is there. Just as you could skip ahead in this recording and see what I say, if you want to, and then skip back earlier and listen again. And I have no freedom to change it, viewed from outside. And if it's visitable, if you can go to the future already, then the future must be there. And so there are consequences to adopting the view that time travel is possible. Now, I'm very much of the view that because our experience points so strongly in the direction of our having some sort of freedom to choose, and there's a lot of debate about what that means, but that choice is real, consequences, responsibility, all these things have some meaning. I am not inclined to adopt either the religious or the secular view of that, as much as I love time travel stories. And so, whatever one's theology, whatever one's science fiction fandom, one can enjoy these stories, but believing them to be possible makes things rather messy and complicated. And it does so in another way. If it were possible for future people to travel back and manipulate the past, change things in history, that would essentially be a godlike power. How would making minor changes so that history follows the course that you want be any different from something like divine providence? It would also allow one to have something akin to omniscience, maybe not what's usually meant in the religious sense, but something like it nonetheless. My favorite use of time travel as a thought experiment in relation to religion actually emerges from a conversation I had on my blog and a thought experiment that someone I was talking with who was an atheist proposed to me. He said, you can have a time and space machine. You can go anywhere, past, present, or future, anywhere in the universe. Where could you go and what could you see there that would shake your faith and cause you to lose your faith? And I thought that was a brilliant question. It really is the philosophical question of whether religion is falsifiable, whether one's beliefs are falsifiable. And I think it's important that they should be. We should be open to revision. One instinctive answer that I gave initially in my mind was the first century. Go roughly around the year 30 or 33, depending on how one calculates, hang around outside a tomb in the vicinity of Jerusalem, and wait to see if anything spectacular happens. I soon realized that that might change my beliefs, might even change my beliefs dramatically, but I'm not sure it would shake my faith, and I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. I realized that while it might cause me to change my thinking about things like resurrection and historicity of certain things, in actual fact, if I saw Jesus walking around Galilee earlier in his life and being cruel, unkind, I sometimes say, if I saw him kicking a puppy, that would do more to change my beliefs. But that too, right, would not cause me to lose what I define as my faith. I might cease to be a Christian if my beliefs changed enough, but is that the same thing as one's faith? If my faith would disappear with a Christian belief system, doesn't that mean that the object of my faith is in fact Christian doctrine rather than God? And so what I realized, and I eventually answered, was that thinking through the possibilities, if I went to the distant, billions and billions of years into the past, trillions, quadrillions of years into the future, and at some point there's nothing. No God, no universe, no recollection or ripple that connects then with now, so that it's all lost, that would shake my faith. Because then it seems as though our existence now does become meaningless, at least in one important sense, although it may still be meaningful in others. My faith is something much deeper than my belief system, and making that distinction was a helpful consequence of working through this thought experiment. Having beliefs that are open to revision in light of evidence is crucial to not just thinking about science fiction and speculation, but being open to learning about history, learning from science, learning other things. And oftentimes, it's the blurring of specific beliefs into what it means to have faith that causes people to resist changing their mind about things. Since I teach courses on a number of subjects related to religion, including religion and science fiction, I think that learning is important. And to learn means to be open to changing one's mind and not simply solidifying what was there and has been there since our very youngest days. If we genuinely believe that we have nothing to learn, that we should only be reinforcing what we've been told all along, that's not really an openness to education. We need to be open to revision. We may hope deep down that we don't need to change our views about things, but being open to that seems crucial. And so there are at least three ways that science fiction can help us to think about religion and vice versa. Religion and science fiction intersect around ideas of time. The same sort of view of time is necessary to believe that God stands outside of time and can see all of history, past, present, and future from one eternal moment and know it all simultaneously. And that has implications for freedom, among other things. If one can travel through time, then one can manipulate it in ways that give a quasi-divine power. And being able to travel to the past and the future to see whether certain events connected with our religious beliefs actually happened or not, that too is an interesting scenario. I've explored that last scenario in a short story that's part of my volume, Theology and Science Fiction. The story is called Certainty. And if you think it's an interesting thought experiment, you might want to have a read of it. Thanks for listening.